The gates of Carrington opened just after sunrise. Players began arriving one by one. Some returned from international duty. Others were reporting back after their summer holidays. Cameras gathered outside the training complex, hoping to catch the first glimpse of one man in particular: Marcus Rashford. For months, many supporters believed they had already seen him play his final match for Manchester United. His loans away from Old Trafford seemed to mark the end of a chapter that had begun when he was just a teenager breaking into the first team. Yet football has a habit of rewriting stories. And on this morning, Rashford was back. He stepped out of his car carrying a small training bag, acknowledged the photographers with a brief wave, and walked through the entrance without saying a word. Inside Carrington, however, plenty of conversations were waiting for him. A manager who knew him, Michael Carrick, had watched Rashford develop from an academy prospect into one of England's most recognisable forwards. They had shared dressing rooms, training sessions, European nights at Old Trafford. Carrick understood something many people outside the club often forgot. Confidence could completely transform a footballer. When Rashford believed in himself, he was capable of deciding matches against the biggest opponents in Europe. When that confidence disappeared, every touch seemed more difficult than the last. Carrick's challenge wasn't simply tactical, it was psychological. The manager welcomed Rashford with a smile. "No speeches," Carrick said. "No pressure. Just train." Rashford nodded. That was exactly what he needed. Winning back the dressing room. Returning to a club after months away is never easy. Questions linger. Relationships need rebuilding. Trust has to be earned again. As Rashford entered the dressing room, several teammates greeted him warmly. Bruno Fernandes embraced him. Kobbie Mainoo shook his hand. Lisandro Martinez smiled and joked that Carrington had become much quieter without him. The atmosphere eased immediately. There was no tension, only curiosity. Everyone wanted to see what version of Marcus Rashford had returned. First impressions. Carrick deliberately placed Rashford in the starting side for an 11 versus 11 training exercise. The intensity was high from the opening whistle. Rashford looked sharp. His acceleration immediately caught defenders by surprise. His movement off the ball was intelligent. More importantly, his work rate impressed the coaching staff. Several times he sprinted 40 meters simply to close down a defender. Carrick noticed every run. Not every touch was perfect. Not every shot found the target. But the attitude was impossible to question. A private conversation. Later that afternoon, Carrick invited Rashford into his office. The conversation lasted nearly an hour. No details emerged publicly. Those inside the club only revealed that the discussion centered on expectations rather than the past. Carrick wasn't interested in revisiting old disagreements. He wanted to know one thing. "Are you ready to fight for your place?" Rashford's answer came without hesitation. "Yes." That single word carried more weight than any press conference. Transfer interest continues. Even as Rashford trained with Manchester United, clubs across Europe continued monitoring his situation. Agents remained in contact. Inquiries arrived almost daily. Several sporting directors believed United might still be willing to negotiate if a suitable offer was made. Carrick refused to become distracted. Until a decision was made, Rashford remained part of his squad. He expected the same professionalism from him as every other player. No exceptions. Young talent. Making an impression elsewhere at Carrington, Tynan Thompson began settling into life at his new club. The teenager quickly impressed coaches with his fearless approach. Although officially joining the under-21 squad, he was invited to observe several first-team sessions. Watching experienced internationals train offered valuable lessons. Every movement, every tactical instruction, every finishing drill. The coaching staff believed exposure to the senior environment would accelerate his development. Thompson embraced the opportunity. He knew nothing would be handed to him. At Manchester United, talent opened the door. Hard work kept it open. Competition across the pitch. Carrick's rebuild had created something that had been missing for several seasons. Competition. No player felt guaranteed a starting position. Every training session became a contest. Midfielders battled for possession. Defenders challenged every cross. Forwards celebrated goals as though they were playing in front of 75,000 supporters. The standards continued rising. That was exactly what Carrick wanted. He often reminded the squad of one simple principle: the league table starts here. Not at Old Trafford, not away from home, on the training ground. Rashford's opportunity. A few days later, Manchester United played another pre-season friendly. Supporters eagerly awaited the team sheet. When it was released, Rashford's name appeared among the starters. The applause around the stadium was loud. Some fans remained uncertain about his future. Others simply wanted to see one of the club's academy graduates succeed again. The match began at a frantic pace. Rashford looked determined from the first minute. He tracked back to help his fullback. He pressed aggressively. He demanded the ball. Midway through the first half, he received possession near the left touchline. One quick touch, a burst of acceleration, 2 defenders beaten. He drove into the penalty area before delivering a low cross that resulted in United's opening goal. The crowd erupted. It wasn't his goal, but it was his moment. Carrick remained calm on the touchline. He clapped once before turning his attention back to the match. There was still work to do. Building trust again. After the game, Carrick praised the entire team rather than singling out individuals. Privately, however, he acknowledged Rashford's display had exceeded expectations. The forward wasn't trying to force spectacular moments. He played with discipline, patience, purpose. Those qualities mattered just as much as goals. Inside the dressing room, teammates congratulated him. Bruno Fernandes smiled. "That's more like it." Rashford laughed. "It feels good." For the first time in a long while, optimism surrounded his future at Old Trafford. The decision approaches. Despite the encouraging signs, no final decision had been made. Manchester United's recruitment team continued evaluating attacking options. Potential offers for Rashford remained possible. Carrick planned to judge every player over the remainder of pre-season before making recommendations to the club's hierarchy. The message was consistent. Nobody would be selected because of reputation. Nobody would be sold because of history. Everything depended on performances. A new chapter. As the Premier League season moved closer, one thing became increasingly clear. Marcus Rashford had been given something many footballers never receive: a second chance. Whether he would seize that opportunity remained uncertain. But one training session after another, one match after another, he began reminding supporters why they had once believed he could become one of Manchester United's greatest modern forwards. The doubts had not disappeared. The questions had not all been answered. Yet hope had returned. And sometimes, in football, hope is the first step towards something much bigger. For Rashford, the journey back was only beginning. For Manchester United, the next chapter of the rebuild was still being written. And as Michael Carrick looked across his squad, he knew the coming weeks would determine far more than a transfer window. They would shape the future of the club itself.